much younger than the state hospitals, this hospital had a great deal to do, and is still having a lot to do with the progress that is being made and carried out in the state mental hospitals. Actually, the hospital pointed the way to what could be accomplished in a reasonably short period of time. They not only pointed the way, but members of the staff of this hospital have from the very outset assisted with programs of training at the Topeka State Hospital, and have played an important part, together with the Menninger Foundation, in making possible the improvements in the state hospital system. It is a real pleasure to be here, and even though we are still located in some of the buildings that started off the program here, I'm sure that the next 10 years, from what I can see developing on the grounds, will bring forth even finer and better facilities in which the personnel can carry forth their work. I'm sure that
Ed Smith, and may I say friends, several times previously I have had emotional reactions from being on this particular stage. I'm having the same sort of thing at the present time. I've been around enough that one shouldn't get stage fright, and I have to make enough speeches, goodness knows. But coming back to this particular place and seeing some of the friends that I see here now does certain things to me, which, frankly, I'm not ashamed, I'm proud of. As Ed said a moment ago, anniversaries are times for reminiscence. Now, if you have to listen to somebody's reminiscence that you were not there, nothing can be more boring, but I hope maybe some of you will stand still long enough to let me say 2 or 3 things. I recall so distinctly the exact day 11 years ago when we celebrated or dedicated the hospital. It was much colder than it is today. There was ice on the ground, if those of you remember that. We had a number of distinguished guests at that time. The thing I remember most of that particular day was the enthusiasm we had for what we were going to do. Here was a task, the first and greatest of which was to treat sick people and get them better. The second was to establish a training program in various disciplines which would be, I believe those days the words were second to none. I'm happy to say that that has actually been done here, and I'm very proud indeed to have had an active part in it. Personally, I've had the experience of helping organize or establish from the jump 5 different hospitals. Most of those were in service. The last one was Winter Hospital. I find, although that I have worked in many places throughout my professional life, those places that I had to do with its beginning, their beginnings, I have a place in my memory and my heart much more than those others. This is the last place that I had anything to do with establishing, and as a result, I feel very, very kindly towards Winter Hospital and Topeka in general. Now let me say that having been gone 3.5 years it is now, and the position in which I now find myself, I travel considerably visiting many hospitals in the large VA chain of 172. I have found that my experience here has been of great value to me in the work that I am now assigned to do because of the prestige it's given me of having been a member of the staff here.
Mr. Smith, honored guests, ladies and gentlemen, inasmuch as most everybody seems to be getting applause, even me, it occurs to me that one person who should receive some is the man who has been largely responsible for the work in organizing and coordinating this program, which some of you probably appreciate has been no small task. And therefore I should like to ask you now for me to give Mr. Edgar Smith a real big hand. I should also like to mention that Mr. Urban, who is here on the platform, has assisted Mr. Smith in this, assists me in many other ways as well. Perhaps a little applause would be all right for Mr. Urban. In addition to those people whom Mr. Smith has introduced and called to your attention, it also pleases me to tell you that I'm very happy to have with us today Dr. Mills, a friend of long standing in the local community and the local medical profession, Dr. Bay from the State Hospital, and Drs. Robbins and Rodersman from the Menninger Clinic, who have been associated with this hospital and its activities in various ways almost from the beginning. I think, in addition to the natural feeling of happiness that I hope all of us have in connection with an occurrence such as this, perhaps the nicest thing that I can think of in terms of this total celebration, this is a little personal perhaps, maybe a little selfish, the fact that it has served to bring back to us Dr. Casey. There is no one who has a sincere interest in this hospital and any of its activities, past, present, or future, who does not owe a great debt to Dr. Casey. I may tell you, I think that had it not been for his calm judgment, patient correction of mistakes, willingness to assume responsibility, it might well be that this hospital would not find itself in what I will now call this happy pre-adolescent state, this latter referring to this tender age of 10. I'm always very glad to see Dr. Casey, and I'm always glad to give him the homage of this kind, which I think is his due. Referring to this phrase of pre-adolescent state which I used, I think we might look back over the past 10 years in that same frame of reference and say that this child has had a pretty healthy, normal development. It's a lusty, healthy, 10-year-old youngster now. It's had a kind of development that is quite common among all developing organisms and things. And at the risk of being misunderstood, I will say the thing that makes it so much the same is the fact that it has been considered to be so different. There's nothing very unusual about this, you know. Everybody's baby is the smartest baby in the world and the prettiest and so on and so forth. This hospital, developing in that sense, has gone through the usual chain of events that happens to most developing things, and has learned to take them in its stride. It has been subjected to various kinds of shocks, which might have been used to explain demoralization if that had occurred, but it didn't occur. And over the years, it has
Place ourselves in the presence of God. Almighty and everlasting God, creator of all, look down with loving care on all assembled here this afternoon to commemorate the 10th anniversary of the founding of the Winter Veteran Hospital. We thank Thee from our innermost heart for the success and progress of these past 10 years, and since without Thee we can do nothing, we beg and invoke Thy divine help on the years that lie ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Gray, and your group for bringing us such an appropriate musical message. Now, we're very pleased to have with us today a number of guests which we should like to honor by introductions. On the stage here we have the officials and VA voluntary service representatives of a great number of veterans, welfare, fraternal, and health organizations. As I call their name, by organizations, I wish that they would stand, please, and remain standing. And
Chairman, Dr. Anderson, distinguished platform guests, patients, staff, and friends. It is really a pleasure for me to be here today for more reasons than one. I'm honored to represent the city, but a little over 10 years ago, I too was a patient out here in this hospital. I can see the changes that have gone on under the able leadership of the wonderful staff that is now running this hospital. I can see the changes in the thinking of the community. Winter General is more than a hospital. Winter General is an institution. Winter VA Hospital is something that every man, woman, and child from Topeka can brag about. Winter VA is known all over the world.
Honored guests, ladies and gentlemen, last time I was on this stage, I was one of 100 who were here to learn and receive information about how to do. Probably the most disconcerting change that has taken place in the past 10 years is to find myself up here giving the word. I wish I could say that we have definitive answers. However, speaking for our staff, we are actively engaged in attempting solutions to the problems that are presented by emotional illnesses. As I look over the past 10 years and review in my mind the many changes that have taken place in the staff, many changes that have taken place in the approaches that we have made to the problem, I find standing out in my mind to the greatest degree the contribution of the volunteer services. I look forward to working with them in the coming 10 years to extend with them the support that they give our patients in the hospital to this same support on the outside of the hospital. One common denominator in mental illness lies in the difficulty the patient has in relating themselves to other people. Now, a tremendous support is given to our patients through the volunteer services. Now, amongst our employees, there has been an enthusiastic participation in the new form of therapy, industrial therapy, under Miss Arden Nelson, and that has had a tremendous growth in the past year. There are some 250 patients involved in this. Now, much credit is due to you on the hospital staff for working with these patients and giving them this wholesome, healing opportunity to work with others and reestablish their sense of self-esteem in order that they might then extend this in the world outside.